on the closing date of the purchase, we got there and our lawyer's like, well, where's the, I think it was $150,000 for the down payment. And we said, beg your pardon? Our house hasn't closed. You have the paperwork. So what?
Welcome to Real Stories in Real Estate with your host, Denise Laframboise. Real people sharing real stories about their adventures in real estate.
All right, so welcome to Real Stories in Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Denise Laframboise, and today I have Nicolee Evans with me.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
Nope, it was a far commute from my office across the hallway.
Right there. Four steps. Amazing. So Nicolee works with me. She is a mortgage agent. You have been licensed for 6 years?
6 years? Same as you.
Yeah.
Same as you.
So we've been working together this whole time, and yeah.
It's pretty great.
Fun.
Yeah, we love what we do, and helping our clients is always good, but we're just always learning, and bridge financing is what we're going to talk about today.
So what I want to hear about is the story where you bought the house that you live in now.
Yeah, so this was more than 6 years ago. So it was prior to becoming a mortgage agent myself. So we were living in our first home, our starter home, if you will, and we loved it, but it was starting to feel a little bit small. So I decided we needed something bigger. My husband wasn't fully on board to start with, to be honest. So I just kind of started casually looking for a new house. And if anyone knows me, I don't really do things casually. So it was actually a really purposeful looking for a new house. And what happened was a friend of ours said, hey, my buddy from work is selling his house and it's what you're looking for. Why don't you go look at it? And they had already engaged a realtor, but it hadn't been listed, the photos being taken anyhow. I was volunteering at an event. I left the event mid-event, went to see this house. And of course it was perfect. It was what I wanted, everything and more. And we were shown the house by the people selling it, the current homeowners. And it was this incredible, emotional connection where they're like, we want you to grow your family here, like we grow our family here. And so we're like, yeah, let's do this. This is what we want to do. Anyhow, we're like, well, I guess we have to sell our house. And our same friend who was about his friend at work, he's like, I have another friend at work who wants to buy your house. And so he's not a realtor. That's not what he does. But he then put us in touch with his other friends who wanted to purchase our home at the time. So we found ourselves in a situation where we were doing a mostly private purchase. There was a realtor involved, but it was mostly private, and a fully private sale. So yeah, it's funny because I wasn't a mortgage agent, but mortgage agents are our own worst clients. But anyhow, we found ourselves in a situation where we were purchasing a home kind of privately and selling privately. So we have a lot of flexibility with timing and closing dates and everything, except for we were willing to work with everyone. So we were willing to work with the people we're buying from, our sellers, for their closing date, but also the buyers, because we were, saving some money on realtor fees. I don't necessarily recommend doing this. It was just we had a buyer, so it all worked out.
But that's always the way with private sales. It's always, the right situation.
Yeah.
I would say, in most markets, people who want the most money, they're probably not selling privately. It's usually because you know somebody and you happen to be connected, right?
Exactly. Honestly, if I didn't have a buyer who was hi, I want to buy your house, I would never have sold privately.
Also different market.
Oh, this was a few years ago. Yeah. So this was about 8 years ago. So it was a completely different market. Anyhow.
So when you decided on your dates, you decided to have a bit of overlap, right?
We did. Again, just to work with everybody. And it wasn't really, we weren't super fussed on when we were closing. And full disclosure, my house I sold to the house I purchased less than a kilometer apart. So it wasn't a big move for us. And we just really wanted it to work for everyone because, it was a shockingly easygoing process. So our purchase was closing before our sale. So we had a couple of weeks where we owned 2 houses.
And so what's the good part about that?
Well, it's really good because you're not rushed to move. You have a lot of time to get your stuff from one place to the other. We decided to be full grown-ups at this point and hire movers, because our friends are a little bit old to, help for beers or whatever.
Well, and even now, like post-COVID, movers are busy. And movers are busy. Move so many people and they have to sanitize in between and all of these things.
Exactly.
Right?
So it gave us just a little bit more time as well. The house we purchased, while we were close to perfect, there were a few things we wanted to do, like we wanted to paint the whole house and, just make a few minor adjustments. We didn't do anything major before we moved in. So it gave us time to have possession of the home, do the painting so that we didn't have to move furniture the whole time, which is ideal. Anyone who's painted a house knows you don't actually want furniture not while you do it. And so it just gave us a bit of breathing room to do that. So that was really awesome. No stress, having to have everything line up. Yeah. So,
and then what about some bad parts about it?
Yeah. So, something that happened that wasn't great. We were in fact porting our mortgage, which I think Denise has had podcasts on before, but porting our mortgage, we were moving the amount that we had on our first house and moving into the second, increasing it by a bit because it was a bigger house. So when that happened, on the closing date of the purchase, we got there and our lawyer was like, well, where's I think it was $150,000 for the down payment. And we said, beg your pardon. Our house hasn't closed. You have the paperwork. So what? So on the day of closing for our purchase, we didn't have enough money to close because, the person we were using for our mortgage financing at that point in time hadn't put in a request for bridge financing. So, that was pretty super stressful. We ended up being able to sort it out. Thankfully, because we were porting and our current lender, I was the same lender both ends. So we were able to sort it out. But it was horrible. Like I was crying. My husband was losing his mind. Our lawyer, for whatever reason, and this wasn't great, was in Belleville. So I'm on the opposite side of, Ontario, trying to close a mortgage with a lawyer. Like all these things were happening. Thankfully, it wasn't affecting anything from our end, but it was affecting the people we were buying from. They both had properties they needed to close on, so they needed that money that day. So yeah, I have like a little bit of anxiety around bridge financing now, which is not bad for any of our clients.
Well, it's especially good actually, because we joke that Nicolee will never, ever screw up somebody's bridge financing.
Nope.
Because she cares so much about it and she never wants anybody to go through the same like post-traumatic stress.
Exactly. And moving, financing, mortgages, real estate, it is intrinsically stressful. And with our process, we're trying to make sure that there's never any added stress from anything we have or haven't done. And so for that, that's why I am super careful with bridge financing, like crazy careful with it, because I don't want a penny out of place. Like that's
honestly,
a little bit
like
controlling.
How many times have you had the bank say like, no, this is a bridge financing,
yeah, and
you're arguing with them? No, that's not the right.
And I do, like I don't make a habit of arguing. I do make a habit, but I just these are big numbers. These are like, this is the biggest purchase anyone's ever going to make. It doesn't matter which house it is. If you're an investor, like purchasing property is an astronomical amount of money. And there are not many people who just have extra funds just kicking around or being able to sort that out, especially if their sale hasn't closed yet, which is exactly what bridge financing is for. When people think that like you buy yourself some time, and especially in the market, even now, like the market's bonkers. And if someone has purchased first and they're selling second, then we definitely want to make sure that we're looking. And this is another thing. We want to make sure we're putting them with a lender that does bridge financing, because it's just so much easier. And even then, I make sure like we've got it all set up. We've got the bridge in place, right? How much is the amount? I do a worksheet. I make sure it's all there because again, fastidious, want to make sure there's no nasty surprises. I don't want anyone else crying at a lawyer like I did.
Well, and realistically, like the bank is not making a lot of money on bridge
Oh, no.
financing. And as a result, like they're not putting a lot of effort into making sure that's all correct.
Yeah.
Especially because it does depend on some numbers they don't have yet.
Yeah.
Like your closing costs,
Mhm.
or some of the lenders will not bridge your closing costs.
Yeah.
What else? Things about bridge financing.
Well, for bridge financing, you want to make sure that you have all your agreements in place. That's really important. So your purchase and sale, and also you want to be fully aware, like when we're looking at your sale agreement, we look at how much realtors are charging you. Like it's standard fee on the sale price usually, but sometimes it's a little different. And any other closing costs and incidentals that are coming out of there, that we want to make sure that you in fact have the right amount to close this purchase. And basically the bridge financing is a short-term loan. It's based on the same criteria as your mortgage. So you have to, income qualify for it. You have to make sure that you can afford to pay it. But unless it's a longer term loan, there's no payments on it until your sale closes. So there's still charges, there's still fees. It's just that you don't make payments on them as you go.
Yeah, well, and another thing that we see come up a lot, if you have a line of credit,
Yeah.
they will assume that you will use the line of credit for some of that down payment and closing costs,
Yeah.
and only bridge finance what you need beyond that.
Yeah.
So if you plan to use that line of credit for a bunch of renovations or furniture or something, then you may not have enough bridge financing room to be able to actually close on different days.
Yeah, which is why, as well as we get close to closing, we ask you for updated documents on those things. So the line of credit portion that Denise is talking about is on your sale property. So if you have a mortgage and line of credit product, we need to know the exact balance of your line of credit when you're closing, because the lender will require you to max that out and use those funds for the purchase as well.
Which is better for you because
It
it's going
is.
to be
It's
cheaper
cheaper
money than bridge financing.
It is, except for if you've earmarked it, as Denise
Right.
says, you want to make sure you're letting us know everything you're doing with these stuff.
Something else we see that's very interesting is a bridge financing is a bridge, right? So it goes from one thing to another thing. It goes from a mortgage to a mortgage, or a mortgage to a line of credit.
Yeah.
If you're planning to sell a home and downsize and say you no longer need a mortgage on the other side, you can't bridge to nothing.
No.
So we have to make sure that we are setting up an appropriate line of credit or something on the other side if you want to bridge to it.
Yeah. And also what that'll look like is, even if you have a line of credit that you just want available, like you just want to have it there for a rainy day, when you do the mortgage transaction and you have to bridge, that line of credit will be fully drawn at that point in time to cover your financing. And then when you get the proceeds of sale, it pays off again and then becomes available to you again. So it sounds complicated. It is a little bit complicated, but that's why you have us, so that we make sure it's all done properly.
Well, and that's why people go into their bank and they're told, oh, sorry, we can't give you a bridge because you don't need a mortgage on the other end. But there are ways around that if you're strategic about how you set up your financing.
Yeah.
Also with separations,
Yeah.
right? If you have two people on title of this house and one person on title of the next house, we cannot typically bridge with the majority of lenders if the people on each property are different.
Yeah.
So you may not have the opportunity to bridge, or maybe only one partner will have the opportunity to bridge and the other person has to sign off the rights to bridge.
Yeah.
It can be quite complicated. So questions around separation, by all means, fire them at us, because every lender treats those a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But they're not the same as a simple transaction. And also always having firm sale and firm purchase, right? We can't bridge finance and go move into the new house and we haven't even put the other one for sale yet. Your only option may be new mortgage or potentially private or something like that.
Yeah.
If there's no firm sale agreement.
Exactly. Unless you can qualify for the mortgage on both properties, then you need a firm sale agreement. And also, even if you can, you need to make sure you have your down payment money, which is usually coming from the sale as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
Final question I ask everybody.
What's that?
Would you do it again? Would you bridge finance again?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd do it because I'd set it up myself this time. I'm pretty good at them. So 100%.
Right. Having that extra time to move and
the
last time we bridge finance, and it would have been insane. We had two little kids at the time, and then we're trying to move from 45 minutes away, and the movers didn't show up on time. And like all of these crazy things, right?
Oh yeah. Well, as I said, like mortgage financing, moving, all these things are stressful enough as it is. And as much as like bridge financing does have some really great pros, you need to work with us so that there's no cons and it's just smooth sailing.
So let Nicolee do the math.
Always. Happy to do it for anyone. Any questions about bridge financing, we're happy to answer them. I want to make sure that no one ever else has that experience, that bridge financing is a smooth part of your mortgage transaction.
Right.
For sure.
So if people have any questions about this podcast, bridge financing, or maybe Nicolee's experience with buying and selling privately as well, anytime. Reach her, Nicolee at laframboisemortgage.ca.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining me.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
All right. So that's your real estate or Real Stories in Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Denise Laframboise, and you can find this podcast anywhere you consider podcasts, like Spotify, Apple, or iTunes. Thanks.